the Battle of Takkolam. Today, we are diving into a historical defeat so absolutely profound that it nearly wiped one of the world's most terrifying powers right off the map. But, crazy enough, it also laid the exact groundwork for an era of totally unprecedented greatness. Welcome to this explainer.
Okay, let's dive into this. If you look at literally any lasting superpower throughout history, you're going to find a chapter where they stood on the absolute brink of annihilation. And for the mighty Chola Empire, this existential near wipeout moment, it didn't happen in some massive naval clash on the high seas. Nope, it happened right in their own backyard, on a blood-soaked field called Takkolam. To really grasp why this matters, and how catastrophic failure can actually be the crucible needed to forge a lasting legacy, we gotta look at just how high the Cholas were flying before they crashed. So, zooming into the mid-10th century, the Cholas weren't just surviving. They were on an unstoppable tear under King Parantaka I. I mean, we're talking a literal golden age of military momentum here. Parantaka had just marched his forces down, crushed the southern Pandyas, and snatched up the highly coveted crown of Madurai. They were incredibly wealthy, oozing with confidence, and their borders were just exploding outward in every single direction. But, well, in the ancient world, that kind of sudden, massive momentum, it always paints a giant target on your back. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive stakes of the collision that was about to happen. Because that explosive success in the south, it set off massive alarm bells up north. Enter the Rashtrakutas. Now, this wasn't just some rival kingdom, okay? This was a terrifying, fully fledged super empire dominating the Deccan Plateau. And they definitely weren't coming down for a light skirmish. The Rashtrakutas pulled together this massive coalition army and started marching south with one chilling goal: absolutely obliterate the rising Chola threat before it could challenge their supremacy. The stakes could literally not be higher. So, to meet this absolute doomsday threat rolling down from the Deccan, King Parantaka sends his own flesh and blood, his eldest son and the beloved heir apparent, Prince Rajaditya. This guy was the fiercely charismatic hero of the empire. You know, the kind of leader who commands absolute die-hard loyalty because he's out there fighting right alongside his men. He literally led the charge from the front lines, riding on top of a massive armor-clad war elephant. It made him an incredibly inspiring hero to his troops, but as we're gonna see, a highly visible target for his enemies. Okay, picture this. The year is 949 CE. The unstoppable force of the Deccan is marching relentlessly southward. The immovable object of the Chola defense force is heading north to intercept them. The tension across the entire subcontinent is at a breaking point, and finally, the two massive armies converge. Prince Rajaditya's defense force collides head-on with the coalition army of Rashtrakuta King Krishna III at this fateful town called Takkolam. The battlefield just instantly erupts. It is a horrific, deafening clash of titans. Pure, unrelenting chaos. You've got massive walls of Chola infantry pushing forward, backed by the sheer earth-shaking weight of their armor-clad war elephants. Slamming right into them is the hardened, lightning-fast cavalry of the Rashtrakuta alliance, while the skies just go totally dark with deadly, endless volleys from coalition archers. The noise, the choking dust, the intense heat, it's completely overwhelming. And for hours upon hours, this brutal, bloody stalemate just grinds on and on. Neither side is willing to give up a single inch of dirt. Now, what's really interesting about this situation is, how do you actually break an unbreakable line? For Prince Rajaditya, the answer was raw, unfiltered audacity. He sees his infantry starting to slowly, agonizingly push the Rashtrakuta forces back, and he decides right there to seize the momentum. He actively steers his colossal war elephant directly into the absolute thickest, most dangerous part of the battlefield. He's trying to physically shatter the enemy's core and just clinch the victory himself. But as the prince pushes forward into that choking dust and the utter fog of war, the Rashtrakuta allied king, Parantaka II, sees a tiny window of opportunity, and he executes a shocking, deeply calculated, and honestly deadly tactical gamble. From somewhere deep inside that chaotic haze of the battlefield, a high-powered bow is drawn back. A heavy iron arrow, coated in deadly poison, is released. And whether by divine precision or just sheer terrifying luck, it finds its mark. The arrow pierces Prince Rajaditya directly in the chest. Before his royal guards can even process what just happened, their beloved prince collapses heavily onto his elephant howdah. The life drains out of him in an instant. So the crucial point is this: in the ancient world, battlefield psychology can flip in the blink of an eye.
The exact moment the Chola soldiers see their invincible, charismatic prince fall dead on his elephant, a wave of sheer, blinding terror rips through the ranks. What was, literally moments before, a hard-fought push toward victory instantly dissolves into a catastrophic rout. The Chola army breaks, they run. Prince Rajaditya is dead on the field, and history would go on to remember him with a deeply poignant, tragic posthumous title, Anai Meltunjana Devar, which translates to the king who died on an elephant.
The immediate aftermath of that single poisoned arrow was just utterly devastating. The fallout of Takkolam was swift and it was brutally unforgiving. With the Chola defense completely shattered, the Rashtrakutas just surged forward. They overran the northern Chola territories entirely, they plundered once great cities, burned them to the ground, and in a matter of weeks, just weeks, they successfully set the Chola Empire's grand expansion back by decades. The momentum of an entire generation was wiped out in a single afternoon. The geopolitical map of the region was fundamentally redrawn overnight. King Parantaka I, the man who had proudly sent his beloved son off to defend the realm, died completely brokenhearted shortly after hearing the news. The massive, grand empire that was originally forged by the Great Vigilia, it rapidly collapsed inward. It was reduced to a tiny, highly vulnerable pocket of land clustered tightly around the Kaveri River, just completely boxed in by hostile borders and looming enemies. 30. That is the number of years the Cholas were plunged into a bleak, suffocating dark age following the absolute disaster at Takkolam. 3 whole decades. An era totally defined by a revolving door of internal succession crises, deeply paranoid courts, and short-lived kings who just couldn't hold on to power long enough to actually make a difference. The psychological weight of this era on the Chola people, it really can't be overstated. Their golden age was gone, replaced by a desperate 30-year struggle just to keep the lights on in the palace.
Now, to the outside world watching this rapid decay unfold, the verdict was pretty clear. The Chola dynasty, proudly represented by their fierce tiger emblem, was a thing of the past. Rival kingdoms naturally assumed that Takkolam was the final nail in the coffin. The tiger was dead, right? Its territory was ripe for the taking, its legacy ready to be completely swallowed by the sands of history. But history, as we know, absolutely loves a stunning reversal.
Let's move forward and see how this builds, because a universal truth of history is that empires are truly forged in fire. From the smoking, ruinous ashes of the Battle of Takkolam, and all through the grim paranoia of that 30-year dark age, a young boy was quietly watching. He was observing the disastrous mistakes of his predecessors, learning the brutal realities of power, and just patiently biding his time. He saw the near destruction of his family's legacy not as a tragic ending, but as a blank slate. So, who exactly steps out of this suffocating darkness to rebuild a completely shattered world? It was a young prince who survived the Dark Age, navigated the deadly palace intrigue, and rose to claim his destiny, Arumojivarman, a boy who wouldn't just rebuild the kingdom, but who would go on to forge an absolute golden era, ultimately becoming known to the world as Raja the Great. But how exactly does a young prince survive a court literally crawling with assassins and usurpers to become an absolute legend? Well, that is a fascinating story of royal intrigue and one that we are absolutely going to uncover in our next explainer. Until then, keep asking questions and never ever underestimate a wounded tiger.